All right. Well, shalom and peace and namaste to each and every one of you. I hope you guys are living your best life. And if you're not, at least you're on the journey to living your best life. The reality of all that is happening, man, is it's so wonderful and it's so crazy and it's so scary and it's so tremendous and it's so horrible and it's so amazing, and it's all of those things all at once. That's what they call a paradox. Uh, and so much that's going on right now is very paradoxical. There is so much ancient that has been hidden from us that is flooding us, uh, and unfortunately, so I wanted to kind of say this because I've talked a lot about the Sumerians, and the Sumerian the journey of what actually exists is a lifetime. Okay, so what, as I've shared with you in the past, I'm noticing that there are like uh, multiple levels and multiple layers, and yet really they're not multiple layers at all. I guess they're layers in the concept that multiple people over thousands of years wrote their own things out of what had been passed to them of the Sumerian. But other than maybe the Akkadians, Egyptians, and Babylonians after Babylonia and the fall in Syria, the concept of the Sumerian truths were pretty much washed out, with the exception of stories passed from ancient generations that existed long after Sumeria was non-existent. And so you say, well, what am I saying by all of that? What I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that you have to be spiritually attuned. Intuition is everything right now. There's a lot going on this month. There's an end. There's a heavy spirit that's here till about the middle of the month of July. There's going to be towards the end some things that happen for the people that have prepared themselves and in the spirit realm manifesting in the physical realm, and so many people know that. At the same time, there's so much knowledge that is coming out in many of the situations. What it's doing, knowledge is always good, but sometimes knowledge comes at a cost of peace and a cost of understanding. And I think oftentimes because of the I don't know how to say it kindly, of the nonsensical thought processes that have been sown into people through the quote unquote spiritual new age movement. It's like they really have asked people to be mindless, and the people have submitted. Uh, they have no concept of anything that exists. And here's something that I've said, but I'm going to say it again. The more that I listen to many of these people talking supposedly from the spirit realm, I almost get the sense that it's getting easier to recognize that who's feeding them the information. Those who have been around me know that nobody ever talks about the fact that at the end, after 24,000 readings, that Edgar Casey said the people who were giving him the information were liars. And I can't say that loud enough. I can't say that strong enough. I can't say that intense enough. I can't say that serious enough to get through to most people's brains that there's more going on here than any of you have an understanding of. This is a much bigger cosmic game than any of us have a concept of. And the game is constantly running. It's about like Las Vegas in the cosmos. The game is always running. The only question is which one do you drop your coin in, and which slot do they take from your pocket? So it's I don't know. There's much that's going on. There's been much beautiful, if you would, gnosis knowledge that has been imparted and is shared, and it is being imparted and shared. It's funny because some of the things that channelers and spiritual people are saying actually are answered and proven to be false from the Sumerian writings. Many of the things that they've said are half truths, which is exactly how if you would, the archons, which is who controls the Akashic record, if there were archons. That's how they work, is by manipulation and misinformation and partial truths, and that's what's worked all along. They teach you in the Bible that there was an Abraham, but they don't tell you that he came from a Sumerian city. You don't have any knowledge of that. I talked to somebody the other day, and I said, well, you do know that he came out of one of the oldest cities that existed. And so what they did in Christianity and Judaism is they told you that he came from the Ur of Chaldee, when in reality he came from the city Ur, which was a Sumerian city. Abraham could probably read cuneiform tablets and write cuneiform tablets. His dad was a high priest. He wasn't some horrible thing. And the rest of that story about destroying the gods is all makeup. None of it's real. I guarantee you, Abraham did not go kill any gods, because gods weren't what you've been brainwashed to believe a god is. Gods in the ancient form had physical bodies. They weren't spirit beings. And so, God, we've been lied to so many levels. It'll take me 10 lifetimes just to get what I've learned in the last 6 months straight. So if you feel sometimes a little bit overwhelmed or you don't understand, hey, we're all in that boat. But the other side is that you do your diligence to continue growing, progressing, learning, and all of those other things. And some will, some won't. And you know, inevitably we all have a fate that we're going to arrive at. The only question is how do we get there, and what does it look like when we do? And so, I don't know, for me, that's quite empowering. I don't see any of that as being negative. I'm okay with it. I don't always understand it. I don't always understand things that happen. But I always know that all of this has been for a purpose. And how long it will take before we see that purpose is another story. But you're going to continue to watch a lot of stuff come out of Samaria that defies what people are being taught today about the spirit world. It's already happening. 5 or 10 things that are very common in the New Age spiritual community have already been proven to be not true, according to the Sumerian text that tells us what those things are. Not tells you what someone told them, that someone told them, that someone told them, that someone told them, that someone told them, ad nauseum said. And so there's going to be a piece of this that I think is going to be really maybe difficult for people as well, because there aren't as many fixed as maybe we would like it, which is why they dumbed you to the point of you believing there was one God and all you had to do was believe in him, and if you believed in him, everything was okay, right? Well, there's a reason they did that, because most people are not interested to go past that. And now you have the freedom to do so, but most still won't. And so it kind of gets into one of those sticky things. Yes, it is true that we all have the ability to create our own reality. Even greater than that statement is that you all already are creating your own reality. The only end thing matters is what creation did you create? That's really what this is about, more so than the fact that you do. Everyone is. The only question is how and what you do with that. And so we finished Sylvanus, which I hope you guys were, that was powerful, the stuff that I read to you last week. As we continue through the Nag Hammadi, there have been things that I have shared with you guys that I question now, and that's okay. Questioning is good. And then there have been things that actually have been corroborated. Maybe different terminology, but the thing was the same. And that we also have to deal with as well. You know, very few people knew the Sumerians, but there are more people in the religious world that know Babylon. Okay? Everybody talks about Babylon as if Babylon was the beginning, and Babylon was the 4th generation away from the Sumerians. Guys, come on, please. Let's pull our heads out of wherever we have them stuck, because we don't see clearly and we don't understand how there's so much that is true that you know nothing about. And up until about 12 years of age, then that's your parents and the people that control you's fault. And after that, or at least after enlightenment or the beginning of enlightenment comes, then after that it's no longer their problem, it's yours. And so in the three steles of Seth, now remembering Seth is, according to what you were told in the Bible, Seth is the son after the two initial sons, Cain and Abel. Then Seth was born. He was the one. He was the God child. He was the thing. And so that concept is still kind of functioning today. There are still Sethian Gnostic believers today. And you go on YouTube, you can find Jane Roberts was one of the most prominent of them, channelers that are channeling Seth. You have Saint Germain, who is being channeled. You have Adamus, who is being channeled, who is Adam. And so all of these voices and flavors are coming through with messages, and the question that really has to be asked is about the message. Unfortunately for us, there were things thousands of years before any of those beings existed. Supposedly, there were complete cosmologies that were laid out and preserved, and ancient antiquities. Somebody said something about Sumerians, and I go, well, the Sumerians very clearly never said that this was ours. They always said that we received this information from those who came from the sky, the gods. And if you continue to study, you find that the Anunnaki say, although they ruled 8 kings for 241,000 years, they ruled this earth prior to the flood, and they say this was not ours. We inherited this when we came down. It already existed. So to just as to say that maybe aliens are going to come back, which is very prominent, the archons are feeding that narrative. And I want you to know that it is most probably correct. But you may not have the whole story. Because ancient texts tell us that there was going to be a time when humanity was going to have screwed the earth up so bad that the Anunnakis were going to have to come back and fix it, or the earth was going to be destroyed. I'm afraid, friends, that the end of this cycle is exactly what that's all about. There's a lot of reasons. I'm talking astronomical calculations by computers that are to within the minute. At least 5 that I know of, and I don't know anything of the end, and the end of this cycle and the end of this loop. As I told many of you, there was a 12-year loop that ended for humans. How you ended your last 12 years of your life and how you began the next 12 years of your life has already kind of been set in stone. Whether you maybe you ain't so ready for 12 more years of what you've been in, but it won't be that way for everyone, and there is going to be some good things come out of this next cycle, which also, surprisingly enough, brings us to very near the 2030 number, which even the spiritualists are constantly talking about. And so for those of you who don't know anything, I just said a bunch of blah, 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 and it doesn't mean anything to you. Those of you who are trying to be acute and mindful, you've heard some of the pieces of what I just said. And so in the 3 steles of Seth, which shows no Christian influence, so we get this pre-belief system of Christianity. So if you hear things, don't try to make them fit the picture that you have in your mind. They're not saying what you were taught in Christianity, even if it sounds the same. And that shows no traces of Christian influence. The traditional 2 steles, or tablets of stone and brick. So did you hear what was just said? The original documentation tells us there was 2 Steles, not 3 Steles. And then all of a sudden, there now becomes 3 Steles. Or tablets of stone and brick on which Seth was said to have preserved from destruction by flood or fire the vast sum of astrological lore revealed to him. I got to take this because it so much fits with the Sumerians, folks. We have been told, in fact, people almost know nothing about the planet placements and the powers and the combinations, and all of that stuff was so weirded out for people by Christianity. And yet, it was the way. I would even go as far as to say there are no prophecies. If somebody prophesies to you, they're either lying to you or they have knowledge of some event that's going to happen in the skies. Everything is marked by the skies. Where did we learn that? Oh, that's also in the Bible, that the stars and everything else were placed for what? For times and seasons and situations. It's there, and those people knew it. But you are not those people. And so you can then get the idea that this actually is supposed, at least giving you a hint, a slight towards a pre-flood situation. Okay? So, if it is, then originally this would have been written in cuneiform by the Sumerians, even if it was a channel through Seth, because at that time there was no writing except Sumerian. It is the first known form of any writing, and it was so extensive, twice as potent as what we exist in today, 5,000 years ago. And so it was preserved from destruction by flood and fire. I'll also say to you guys, this is not what is coming for us, is just another, I believe it's a 24,000 year cycle that has happened. And then, of course, there are minor cycles inside of that. All of these cataclysms, they know of at least 4, possibly 5, maybe 6 cataclysms that have happened to the earth when the earth is flipped upside down. We're waiting for the pole shift. If you don't know that, you might research what's going to happen as far as the pole shifting that Edgar Casey talked about, that many people have talked about the shifting of the pole. That's probably the least destructive of them all, although in our situation it's going to totally destroy everything that is high tech. Is not going to exist anymore. So Seth was said to have preserved from destruction by flood or fire the vast sum of astrological lore revealed to him. And I will tell you, I do find that slightly questionable unless this document actually was a Sumerian document, because he wasn't given some divine insight that did not already exist. We were given the divine insight by those who were infinitely more ancient than us. So there's really a question mark there. And have now become 3 steles, recording 3 doxological hymns. The hymns are addressed by Seth to, in ascending order, his own father, Pagaradamus, the heavenly Adam, and the 3 members of the Sethian Trinity, the self-generated Son, the Divine Mother, Barbello, and the pre-existent Father, who we would call Monad, Source, God, the Unknowable One, the Light. All of those are Him. And so let's look over here and we'll see what the first hymn of Seth has to say. Dositheos' witness of the 3 steles of Seth. Okay, so this is supposed to set up the stage for a first-person actual seeing of these steles. Dositheos' revelation of the three Steles of Seth, father of the living and unshakable generation. And so I know you don't, because you've been brainwashed by Christianity that Adam and Eve, and you haven't heard anything about Seth to know that he is actually the one who was attributed. There in this picture 3,000 years ago, there was no concept of Adam as a physical being. There was no concept of Eve as a physical being. They were only spirits. And so that may mess your theology up, but I'm sorrowful if you haven't figured out that your theology is not going to stand, then I'm very sad for you, but it's not going to stand. And so Dositheos remembered what he saw, so we know then that he had a vision. He had a vision, he had a revelation, he laid down and went to sleep, and he traveled, which is very common. And I hope at some point we get back to that, where people, again, can be so authentic and so high frequency that they also can travel. And he remembers what he saw, and he understood, and he read, and gave it to the chosen, just as it was written there. Often I have joined with the powers in giving glory, and I became worthy of immeasurable, majestic things. The stele reads as follows, okay? The first stele of Seth says him to Pagaradamus, who is the true Adam, the heavenly Adam. See, the purpose for telling you that there is no Christian documentation is so when you hear Pagaradamus, the heavenly Adam, you're not confused that there never did exist a earthly Adam. That was nothing but story, writing, and poetry. And he says, I praise you, Father Pagaradamus, I, your son, Imakaseth, whom you have engendered without procreation. Now, if you go back to Genesis and you read Adam and Eve copulated and made, as you were told, Cain and Abel, which isn't at all true, because there were also daughters that were part of that Christianity cut completely out, that existed in more ancient than Christian understanding. Okay? In fact, one of the battles of Cain and Abel was over one of their sisters, which they both wanted to marry. I'm sure you don't know that unless you're a studier of some kind, at least at some levels. There are people that I know that do know that. But it never existed. If your mind is stuck in Christianity, as Ronnie Millsap says, you're stuck in the Christian tonight. So he says, I praise you, Father Pagaradamus, I, your son Imakaseth, whom you have engendered without procreation. So the Seth you never hear about, by the own words, are, I was created, but not by you and my mother having sex. For you, if that didn't just blow the top of your head off, then you're really not that interested in truth, because that's quite phenomenal. That everything that you have been told just got validated as being a big zero. And remember, this is pre. The same reason that I share the Sumerian, and it has so much more information than everything, including the Egyptian, Akkadian, and Babylonian that came after it. Okay, it's the same situation here. It's quite important. This is the Sumerian of Gnostic teaching, pre-Christian. Whom you have engendered without procreation. And why did he engender him without procreation? For the praise of our God. I am your son, and you are my mind. So I will tell you another piece, if you will open your eyes and dare to look, That's exactly the story that you get in the New Testament of Jesus. Most people that have any thinking knowledge at all anticipate that one of the incarnations of Yeshua was actually, he was Seth. So all of this is actually not Seth, a physical being. It is the Christology spirit being that existed in multiple forms over the course of thousands of years. And he says, I am your son and you are my man, oh my father. Now you can put that anywhere in the New Testament you want, and I guarantee you there ain't a Christian in church tomorrow that will question that as being something that Jesus might say. It was robbed from the Gnostics by the Christians, and it was converted just enough to make you believe in Jesus so you could worship a dead man, which was already spoken was going to happen. And they brought it to pass. I have sown and procreated. But you have seen majestic things and have endlessly stood at rest. So we saw on Wednesday night that God says, well, you're kind of like crosstown traffic. You people get in front of me and you actually slow the movement of the things that I have intended down. But other than that, you're just kind of a nuisance. And for some of you, because your spiritual cosmology is so tied to spirituality, it's going to get really difficult maybe for you to understand that most of the spirituality that you have been taught is a corruption. It's not true. Okay? It was a whole lot more literal who you are thing than it ever was spiritual, believe in God for supernatural miracles. Because that doesn't exist until Christianity. Sorry, folks. But you have seen majestic things and have endlessly stood at rest. Just so you know, folks, God ain't upset about what's going on the earth. Not a bit. It doesn't bother him a bit. I praise you, Father. Praise me, Father. Now, you know, if you read that tomorrow morning in church and if you said that, they would think that you were a heretic, and they would scream that Yeshua would tell God to praise him. Because of you I exist. Because of God you exist. Pagaradamas. Remember, we're not talking about Christ. We're talking about the first Adam, the heavenly Adam, the spirit Adam, the not physical Adam. And because of you, I exist, and because of God, you exist. Well, that is a theos belief pattern, okay? Because Pagaradamas did not create anyone physically. Now, if we begin to talk about the soul and the light and the spirit level, that's a whole different dialogue. And because of you, I exist, and because of God, you exist. Because of you, I exist in the presence of that one. You are light, and you see light. You have revealed light. You are a Merothead. Okay? You are my Meratheos. So he is a God in and of himself, and because of that, he is Seth's God. And I praise you as a God. If you had any questions about what I just said is right, because it is. And I praise you as God. So far, you realize there hasn't been one word other than the mentioning of something more than Adamus. There hasn't been one word mentioned about the all. And yet, everything is in the all. Not all is in everything. I've shared that with y'all. And I praise you as God, and I praise your divinity. Says him to autogenes, the self-generated. Many of you don't understand. Autogenes is always going to pop up. There is much of this, folks, at the spirit level that was self-creating. It emanated from a thought of monad or source. It emanated as a thought, and it created itself. The thought did. There's it's being massively corrupted by all of these people that say you can just simply think about things and they all of a sudden come to you, because there is some truth in the way that functions. How that functions might be a little bit different than what most people are being told. But certainly there is a level of truth. You are creating your reality. In other words, what you do, how you behave, determines the day that you live today, tomorrow, and a year from now. That's why this 12-year cycle that I tried to tell people was so huge, and yet I dare say that nobody knows what it even means. It should have been one of the most important things. If you knew you could set yourself in a better place 12 years at a leap, you might want to consider maybe not spending so much time being distracted by the archons and more conscious about what it really means to be a human. And so, I praise you as God, and I praise your divinity. I want you to see a couple things. Source, monad, who we would call God, finds no offense in Dositheos' statement by virtue of Seth of Pagaradamus, or the heavenly Adam, being praised as a god. That is a piece of what I was talking about. For some of you, it's going to be very difficult to bring to your mind that what was being sold to you is spirituality, so that you only seek for miracles and things like that, and you miss the miracles that we are all capable of creating. And I just said a mouthful there, and most won't get it, but those that do, you're blessed because you did. Much of the picture that you have, folks, is a scam. It's not true. If we could focus on learning how to find who we are truly inside, and I don't mean just who you, the person. I'm not talking about shadow, but yes, that kind of plays in. But shadow is physical. Soul is spiritual. And you neither know who you are shadow-wise, nor do you know who you are spiritual-wise. And so, Seth seems a hymn to autogenes, the self-generated. Great is the good self-generated one who stood, the God who was first to stand at rest. Now you notice back up here, he talks about how he stood at rest. He was never at unrest. You can take that and you can find those teachings in psychology that is being functioned today through Alan Watts, through Carl Jung. They are modern versions of the principles that work inside of a human. Psychology is about how a human works. And so, the God who was first to stand at rest. You came in goodness, you appeared, and you revealed goodness. I shall utter your name. You are unborn. You have appeared to reveal eternal things. You are the one who is. Answer this question. Who is it that's being talked about? Is it Source? Is it Pagaradamus? And we haven't even gotten into Barbello yet, who Yeshua was very prominent with the connection with Barbello. And so you are the one who is. So you have revealed those who really are. For some that are in a situation spiritually where maybe they've suffered through their whole life a lot of different facets, but they have a knowing inside of them that not only they are something, but that they are becoming something. And I will send those words out, and they'll value to those that it matters. But it was really powerful to me to be told that. There is a move and a shift that's going on, friends, but it's not what people are trying to sell. I've talked about that openly. I've talked about there is so much brainwashing. They're just doing the same thing to you Christianity did. Most of the spirituality New Age movement is nothing but another tool of the archons. Doesn't mean that there's not truth in it, but there's truth in Christianity. The question is not, is there truth there? There is. The question is it truth? And it's not. And it's exactly what's going on right now. And so most will buy into it because it makes them feel real good. You can ask yourself, and I know that maybe some don't have a connection with Source and the other spirit beings, but if you do, just simply ask yourself, is all that Source tells me is how good I am and how much he loves me? Or does he try to teach me and lead me and guide me to be a better human? And if he's not teaching, leading, and guiding you to be a better human, folks, you're probably listening to an archon. Sorrowful. Monad is about consciousness. Do you really think the God of all consciousness is going to act mindlessly? Do you really think he's going to lead you down the wrong road simply because it makes you feel good? He doesn't need anything from you. There's nothing you can give him. So why would he need to manipulate you, or why would he even need to put up or tolerate with humans trying to manipulate him? That right there in a nutshell should tell you that there is something amiss in the cosmic realm. And so he says, you are unborn. You have appeared to reveal eternal things. Well, while that is a broad statement, you have to admit that things are eternal or functioning on eternal laws. Once again, unfortunately, for all of those who wanted to run from Christianity because of simple 10 little commandments, folks, you ran from 10 commandments to 2,000 humanic commandments that are going to last forever. Even when you die 1,000 times, you still will be living under the cosmic law that it always has been, and it always will be. It will never cease to be. The law is what controls life. And so, you have appeared to reveal eternal things. You are the one who is. You have revealed those who really are. I tell you all the time, if you want to know who someone is, just watch them. That's what they're telling you as well. You are uttered by a voice, but by mind you are glorified. You remember when I told you about praise and worship, that singing songs and stuff is great and wonderful, and certainly it affects the humanity, but that's really, unfortunately, not what true praise and worship is. That's exactly the principle that he's talking about there. It doesn't take away from the one. We're actually, for some of you have asked, we're actually going to do a couple of songs today, and that's going to be really cool. But folks, while it is from a human standpoint, it is praise and worship. From God's standpoint, how could we ever sing beautiful enough to please God? What he's a lot more interested in is how we sing from inside of us. And so if you misunderstood that or thought that I was in some way denigrating music, I'm certainly not. Music is part of my life every day. If it's nothing but word clips that Source gives me to take with me through a day, and I can't tell you how many of those have been very, very helpful. Sometimes days, weeks, months, So it's not it's not to diminish one. It's really to talk not about the lesser as much as it is to talk about the major, and that major is exactly the same as everything. It's the worship that emanates out of you. That's what Source loves. Authenticity, highest frequency. And so, you are uttered by a voice, but by mind, you are glorified. Have you ever had a day where everything, for whatever reason in the cosmos, was just cycling right for you, and you could bump through a day and it seems like that day is 2 hours long and you're happy and there's no problems and everything's going wonderful? That's because of your mind. And we can generate those. Sometimes it's a lot of work because we as humans have all kinds of problems and situations we have to encounter, both with people and situations. But to be sure, the reality of that comes out of you in awareness of who you are, where you are, what you are, when you are, and who He is. And so, you are uttered by a voice, but by mind you are glorified. You are powerful everywhere. Why? Because everything is in Him. So the sensible world also knows, because of you and your seed, you are merciful. You are from another race. It presides over another race. Now you are from another race, and it is placed over another race. You are from another race. You are different. You are merciful. You are eternal. You are placed over a race. And for some of you, it just kind of popped into my mind. For some of you, you probably immediately read that as what's going on in our screwed up American society about racism. That stuff is so base to the universe, it's not even funny. I had somebody that said something to me and they were very offensive and programmed into that whole cultural thing, and I looked at him and I said, "You do know one time in your past life you were white, right?" And he got mad at me because I took away his reason to hate. And so, you are placed over a race. You made them all to increase because of my seed. And you know it experiences procreation. But they are from other races. They are different. Now we go from singular to plural. Okay? But they are from other races, so if we didn't get anything else out, but other than that, there are other races that exist talking about in the cosmos. He's not talking about black, white, yellow, green, red. And they are different. They are placed over other races. They are placed in life. You are a miratheos, and I praise its power that is given to me. And so the communal hymn to Barbello. Many of you have no knowledge of who Barbello is. Barbello is the feminine who was the very first creation of thought, of mind, of monad. Yeshua was very prominent in his teachings outside of what you got in Christianity about Barbello. She is the feminine. She is the first thing that Source thought when he had a thought. It was of a female. And so, a communal hymn to Barbello. You who made the masculinities, okay, that really are to be a triple male. You who were divided into 5, who were given to us in triple power, who were generated without birth, who came from the superior and for the inferior entered the midst. So she came from the superior, she came from monad for the purpose of coming to that which was inferior, because everything that was created is inferior to monad, including Barbello. You are a father through a father. I think I said something in the past, and it seems kind of difficult for people to grab reality and truth very easily. But in the ancient days, prior to Christian, most prayers were to Father, Mother, God. Many understand that part of our divinity of the Sumerians comes out of the divinity of Mother Earth. There's a reason why she is our mother. And he says, you are a father through a father. You could also say that she is a father by a father. A word from a command. We praise you, triple male. You have unified the all through them all. You have empowered us. You have come into being from unity. You have gone forth from unity. So she came into being from unity. She came into being as the first thought from source. Okay? And then she has gone forth from source, which means she then manifested from that thought into a separate. And you have come to unity. And then once she was separated, she then unified again, also with source, but also unified with us. You saved, you saved, you saved us. You who are crowned and who crown. There again, two more allusions that you can see where an ancient scholar who would have been destroying Gnostic books would have sat down and read this. And what did he say? We need this Jesus to be a savior. And he saved, and he saved, and he saved, and he saved. Oh, we found it right here. Let's take that. And so Jesus is a savior. And then, you who are crowned. Okay, so this Jesus who's a savior needs then to be crowned. Well, we got to give him a crown. Because he's a God. He's a king. Right? You are my king. And you who are crowned and who crown. So the purpose of being crowned is so that you can crown. Another concept that you could easily twist into what was taught about Yeshua. And I do believe that there is truth in that those who are crowned also crown others. We praise you eternally. We praise you, we who are saved. Now, through all of this, once again, folks, I know that it's very common that everybody's just going to happen along and everybody's going to line up in uniform code and they're all going to walk in to the Akashic record and they're going to spend a few minutes and they're going to see some of the bad things that they did and they're not going to have much consciousness about it, and then they're just going to continue on and go on through the process which they've been told. And to be quite honest with you, friends, there's nothing further from the truth than that lie. So we praise you eternally. We praise you, we who are saved. So not everyone is going to be part of this. Who are perfect individuals. And if your first thought was, well, Brother Rob, no one's perfect, then you probably are not one of them. Because no one stops long enough to ask the question to even define what perfection is even being accosted. You find this principle all the way into the New Testament. Talks of those who are perfect. Paul wrote of those who are perfect. So it never leaves, although Christian preachers have wiped it out because in their carnal understanding of perfection, they don't have any people in their church to talk to. How can I talk when I, as a human, already know all of the failings of your life? How can I dare stand up here and talk about you being perfect? That's why most preachers don't preach about people being perfect, because they're not, physically. And so we praise you, we who are saved, who are perfect individuals, who are perfect. Why are we perfect? We are perfect because of you, who have become perfect with you. Now, many will understand that the concept of perfect can also, in a broader vision, can be considered having to do with whole, with complete. And so if you take that a little more modern concept and you read that, then again, you would say that we have been found whole and complete because of you, and because of you, we are whole and complete. And that is certainly a reality, and it's exactly what the word perfect means. Whole and complete. If you go to the store and you see a nasty apple and it's got spots and blotches and soft spots, that is not a perfect apple. Is it an apple? Yes. Is it as much an apple as any apple that's ever been? Yes. But in our vision, it is not perfect. Why? Because it is not complete and whole, acceptable, quality, good. And so we are perfect individuals. Not corporate here, folks. This isn't talking about the collective consciousness. This is talking about individual people. We are perfect individuals who are perfect because of you. That is more a revelation in consciousness than it is anything. You notice that there's no exclusion. It simply says that there are individuals who will be that. And we are perfect because of you. We have become perfect with you. So this isn't you doing something outside of yourself. This is a unity again. And in that sense, it would inevitably manifest as collective consciousness. But each individual is an individual piece of a collective consciousness. If you're not there, it's okay, because the rest of the collective consciousness is still collective consciousness. Your one spark, your one piece is not a destruction of the whole. It simply means when you are there, you are also part of the collective. So we have become perfect with you. You who are perfect, who are perfect through all of these. Who are everywhere similar, triple male. You came to stand. You were the first to come to stand. You have been divided everywhere, and you have remained one. The self-creating, generating self. Triple male, you have come to stand. You were first to come to stand. You have been divided everywhere, and yet you have remained one. Whomever you wished, you have saved, and you wish that all who are worthy be saved. And so, as it's continued on, lots of conversations and lots of truths and insights and wisdom, but folks, any preconceived ideas that everyone's going to get there, I think that's a really sad lie that people are making. I think everyone has the opportunity to get there. That doesn't mean everyone will avail themselves. So, you have been divided everywhere, and yet you have remained one. We also are supposed to live our lives like that. You are divided everywhere. If you have grandchildren that are acting in behaviors that match with our modern society, you may be divided with them. You go, well, when I was growing up, that wasn't allowed. That wasn't accepted. It was horrible. And I hear these conversations go on all the time. And yet you also still have to remain the one who is. So you are divided. Why? Because you love them and you don't want to see bad things happen to your grandchildren or your children or your friends' children or really probably anybody if your heart is right. But on the other side, you also still have to remain one, rooted and grounded in the truth. And so, whomever you wished, you have saved, and you wish that all who are worthy be saved. You are perfect. You are perfect. You are perfect. Now, I'm going to tell you something that may, yet again, just add a stripe to maybe something that's caused a stripe for you that I've already said. Yeshua proved he was worthy. And part of the proving he was worthy was the things that he went through. That's why I believe the greater message that has been missed has nothing to do with the cross. The cross was simply to tell us that we don't die when we die. That's the whole message of Yeshua. But I do believe that with that, there's another message which is involved, is that if all you're doing is living your life to keep from suffering, and you are not authentic, because if you are authentic, you will suffer. If you tell people the truth they don't want to hear, they will hate you. I guarantee you that's just as real as any words I could ever say to you. That's authenticity. I know in my heart, I know inside of me and my soul what truth is. And when I say it, it makes people offended. And you will be cast out of Christianity and spiritualism and just about every other thing there is where there are people whose hearts are corrupt. It's just that simple. It's part of the life. Carl Jung talked a lot about this, about empaths, and how abused they are by people that are nothing but manipulators. And that's most humans. So there's a real bridge here, and for some of those you probably went, man, I didn't go to school to be a psychologist because I didn't want to study psychology. Well, that's fair, and I get that, but I have to tell you, you can't understand without understanding. And understanding often takes you on a many branched road. And so if it doesn't resonate with you that these things are real and they're all about who we are inside, then it just doesn't resonate with you. I'm not going to change my message. I know what I believe. The only question is, do you know what you believe? And so with all of that said, we then have an amazing, wonderful opportunity to walk into a time. Many things, folks. I'm going to say this in a way, and then it'll play itself out, and I'll let it, because it's not a bandwagon I'm trying to get up on. But all of these people, all of these spiritual people that are being guided and told by the archons about people coming back, that they're aliens, they're calling it the Great Disclosure. There are people like Bashar, and just about every spiritual thing that I watch, someone is talking about aliens manifesting themselves. I got blessed a few days ago to listen to a Sumerian tablet that tells us not only they might come back, that they are coming back. But I hate to tell you the truth, dear ones, it's not aliens, it is Anunnaki. They have been known for 5,000 years. Humanity was going to degrade to such a level that they were going to have to come back and take over control, just like they had for 200,000 years before the flood. And that, my friend, is a truth that most people have no knowledge of. And so it is very probable that these beings that everybody keeps talking about, because they're being led by these teachers of lies, according to Edgar Casey, which is exactly what Yeshua and John said in the early text where we read about the archons, that they come to you and they plant words that are not true, and you believe them. And so they're planting this word through all of these guys. Oh, they're coming, but they don't tell you who it is. It's alien. Nobody even knows. If you went and sat with the top 10 channelers on television that are making a living telling people stories out of their head, if you go talk to them, not one of them knows who these beings that they keep talking about that are coming. And the Sumerians told us who they were 5,000 years ago. You take that for whatever it's worth to you, friends, but I know where I'm putting my money. So they came through a door originally, and they're coming back through that door, and mankind is setting the stage for that to happen. They are not doing it. We are. And so I hope that you will recognize all of the confusion and the unrest. That's all part of why. What's going on right now. Here we are, once again. We have a little old country that is full of oil, and that's, I don't know how big it is geographically, probably not that much bigger than Texas is. And yet, look at how many billions of dollars we've wasted at a war that still is going on. And they still stand in defiance. Now the newest order this week is that they're going to kill Donald Trump. So I don't know how much more defiance you can see before you see what it really is. And that level, man, the stage is set for a lot of things. I'm not speaking gloom and doom, because I know from the writings that there are going to be those people that make it through that, those who are connected spiritually. And so I hope that you will grab a hold of the truth and understand that there are many things going on 1,000 different levels that we have been ignorant of. We thought that we get up and we go to work every day and we come home and we pay our bills, and that was the extent of our responsibility. And in reality, that was the minuscule part of the responsibility. That's how you feed this human body as long as you have it. It has nothing to do with your spiritual self. And so, peace and shalom to each and every one of you. I hope you guys will, if you're overwhelmed, it's okay. Overwhelmed is good sometimes, because down the road there will be good things that come out of this. You have been told the truth. And so we're going to take about 5 minutes here, and then we're going to play a couple songs for you, and I think we'll come back and do a little closing thing, 5 or 10 minutes probably. And so I hope you guys are blessed. I hope you're peaceful. No need to be unpeaceful, just need to be conscious. Shalom. We'll be back in just a minute. Shalom and welcome to everybody. It's been a while since we've been here, but I hope that we'll be a blessing to you. I hope that you will take and meld those two, because really a lot of what I'm trying to say is actually a combination. The one is greatly expounded when the other is present, and vice versa. So we're gonna lift up a praise to our source, our creator, and recognize the goodness and all that goes with that. And hopefully it not only comes from here, hopefully it comes from here. And when that works, then everything is clicking just like it should be. House of Prayer is rocking. Right, what a wonderful opportunity. A house of prayer is rocking. Well, you know, the word is always alive, and the word is so full of power. And I hope that some of you guys are beginning to come, I hope a little more peace with yourself. You know, hearing words like, well, those that are and those that are worthy. Sometimes those words invoke in us humans that thing that maybe we're emotionally struggling with anyway. Many inferiority complexes, which are really prevalent in our society, anxiety, which is really prevalent in our society. And I truly believe for those people that begin to hold on to the truth, irrespective of emotions, and of course, learning some psychology really does make your life a lot better, because then you recognize that it's okay to have emotions. The real deal that causes emotions to be bad is when we handle them wrongly. When we handle emotions rightly, everything stays beautiful in its own way. And so for each and every one of you guys, I hope that y'all will see that if those things are functioning in your life, and maybe you live a life most of the time full of anxiety or inferiority complexes, or you know, there's really a lot of manifestations of that outside, versus recognizing that the perfection that will inevitably lead us to greatness is the perfection of understanding our connection with Source. Because I promise you, Source will never tell you to do anything that's not right, and if there are beings, spirits, animals, dogs, friends, neighbors that are telling you to do things wrong, they're the source of your struggle, not Source. And so I hope that you will recognize that he really is a friend that sticks closer than a friend, the spirit beings. It's really not as hard to judge. We go to the book of John, and John says that we are to try every spirit. Folks, what I'm standing here telling you about questioning the spirits and the archons and all of that, that's not new. That's old. And so, but it is vitally important for us because those things do exist. Now, if you're one of those who chooses to believe that there are no archons and there are no spirits giving us negative words, then I don't know who can help you. But on the other side, if you begin to recognize that maybe sometimes some of those thoughts that you have really aren't you. And I know that I've had encounters like this, and they were quite shocking at first, and I went, wow, I really didn't think that was me. And now I look at that and I go, that's so foreign from who I truly am inside. And so it's a journey, to be sure. It's wonderful to be sure, and it's up to us to totally control it. So the next song we're going to do, I can't remember the name, is a song called Heavenly Choir. I'm a little bit rusty, but we'll get better. So, okay.
You want to remain?
Get rusty quick, folks.
Song coming from heaven, choir of angels, glorious sound. Song coming from heaven, choir of angels, glorious sound. Turn your life around. No dark clouds control us when we're dancing in the rain. No dark clouds control us dancing in our pain. Love of God just keeps on flowing when I meditate and pray. Hallelujah to that, folks. Well, I'm leaving this place, y'all. Lord, I'm going home to stay. And I hope you will too. I'm leaving this place, y'all. I'm going through the astral plane. Well, back home, no fear or pain there. I'm divine light in every way. Heavenly choir, hallelujah. We'll be right back.
All right. Well, shalom and peace back to you again. I hope you guys were blessed, and I hope you felt positive energy coming out of that. You know, really, all of it is so. Walking through our individual lives is such a mystery on so many levels for all of us folks. None of us are exempt from anything. We all are going to experience everything. That's how the all recognizes its consciousness, is by the things, the emotions that we go through, and also by the reality of us conquering. And so I hope that you guys will give value. Maybe you always have, and if you have, wonderful, and if you haven't, then maybe you'll begin to. So, you know, the purpose of this is, wherever we are, and no matter how perfect we are, the purpose for all of this is an act of love from Source for us to become more. And it might be difficult for some to understand that the becoming more, although we see it that way, the becoming more really isn't about this body. The becoming more, the purpose that we incarnate is so that we can learn something. And if you're in perfection all the time, then there's no need to learn anything when you already are perfection. And so part of the piece that you might see, maybe you've seen it before, maybe you haven't really thought about it, and I hope if you haven't, that you will maybe contemplate a little bit, you know, that is to say, give the words some value and think about them past just a casual happening stance. But think about the reality that you are consciousness having an experience of unconsciousness. And that may seem quite a strange, but we had to come into this situation because it's not perfect. We can never experience these in our true self of light. And so I don't know if that'll help somebody. It certainly helped me. You know, it doesn't fix all my problems, and I still have to go through my flesh battles, but I find that quicker I return to the reality, oh yeah, I forgot that there's a journey here, and there's a piece here, and there's things that I have to learn here. And so if you have been one that have actively been pursuing that, then by all means, don't hesitate to continue, no matter how bad sometimes it hurts, because it will. But on the other side, if you haven't begun, then I would, more than anything, just love to encourage you that maybe you begin to think outside of self. And we're going to find that here. James Allen, and as a man thinketh, so is he, is very poignant about his things. Everything that I say and share is summed up in the many of the things that he also shares. And we're going to find that to be the truth today. It'll be the truth to the end. Why? Because the truth is that who we are inside is everything about who we are on the outside. And so he says, a man will reach the kingdom by purifying himself. So if we were starting a list of things that may be different than Christianity, Christianity is faith without works. Even though James, the brother of Yahusha, tells us that faith without works is dead, you know, that just like I used to know preachers, and they would quote James, faith without works is dead, being alone, and yet turn right around and tell you what Paul said, which is salvation by works is non-existent. Those two are not compatible. And it could be the reason, maybe that really was how it was, and that's why James and Paul were enemies. But I don't think that that's really honestly the truth. I believe that Paul had a great revelation and an understanding, and James did also. So a man will reach the kingdom. Remember, we don't talk about this a lot, but we are actually given the true definition of the kingdom. And the kingdom of God is in righteousness, peace, and joy. You can't have no peace if you're not righteous. And you won't have any joy if you don't have any peace. So it is only when you begin to deal with righteousness, or in some situations unrighteousness, because you really don't have to deal with righteousness. It's an outworking of right thoughts. And but we do have to deal with unrighteousness, which takes away right thoughts. So, a man will reach the kingdom by purifying himself, and he can only do this by pursuing a process of self-examination and self-analysis. And so, there will be people, thousands have heard my voice and turned right around and walked off and never 1 second gave it any greater credence. And it's hard coming from where I am, because I have a desire to help people live better lives. Whether it seems like that to you or not is kind of, I guess, other than for you, is irrelevant. For me, I know what my intents and my thoughts are. And so does Source. He knows the thoughts and the intents of our heart. And so, if it doesn't come across in the manner in which you think that it should be, or if it makes you feel like that you're failing because you're failing, then I don't really intend necessarily to expose that. But I do have a desire for you to wake up and recognize that we are more than what we ever have been. Part of my calling has become very clear, that I have a desire to goad people, to help people to be better than what they are. I look back at that, that's actually a psychological teaching that Carl Jung taught. And when I learned that truth and I turned and looked backwards, I went, I've been doing this my whole life, no matter where I was. And it's funny, when people are around me for any length of time, if they choose to, they will grow and they will increase in consciousness. And immediately when they leave me, they begin to revert back. Now that's just because of who I am. And of course it's because of who they are. But the reality of it is that all of us are infinitely better than we give ourselves any value of or any clue of. And sometimes if you begin to do that, you still get it wrong, because then you are doing that through ego and not through humility. And without humility, friends, there is no picture that's clear. So, we can purify ourselves. If you have been told that you cannot make yourself perfect, you have been lied to. Because purification and perfectedness are hand in hand. They walk together constantly. The more you purify, the more you perfect. The more you perfect, the more you're motivated to purify. They never are separate. Always. Purification is always with perfection. And so a man will reach the kingdom, righteousness, peace, and joy, by purifying himself. And outside of that pattern, there is none. And he can only do this by pursuing a process of self-examination and self-analysis. Okay? Once again, bombshell statement in a few words. He will only accomplish this by self-examination. Only by self-examination will you ever improve. Without question. So, the selfishness must be discovered and understood before it can be removed. That is shadow work. Okay? The first is that you have to see it. Then you can deal with it. And if you can't see it, then how would you know what to deal with? And so it must be discovered, recognized, made conscious in your mind. I am conscious that I have an anger issue. It's the greatest day for a person with an anger issue that in humility says to themselves, self, today I came to the realization that I have an anger problem. You can pay a therapist until you're blue in the face, and until a human says that, there will never be a change. And we could go all the way down the road. You know, there are many people that are struggling with, if you would, homosexuality. And the saddest part of that is that anything less than honesty is not authenticity. So a person who has that is not better off by hiding that. They're better off by acknowledging that. And so that sounds contrary, but it's not as far as authenticity goes. Now, you could then debate, and you could you could give therapy and find out, is there something that's causing this, and maybe that isn't a totally true statement. And yes, there is, and yes, you could, and yes, all of us should re-examine once we think we've got something done, just to verify that in fact we are seeing what we think we're seeing. And so the selfishness must be discovered first, must acknowledgement, and then understood before it can be removed. So think about that for each and every one of us. Until you're willing to look and see, recognize, acknowledge, there's really never going to be any change. And some of you have children that you've wished your whole life that they would change, and they never change, and they never will change until they begin to look at themselves. And it works also equally whether it's parents or grandchildren or great-grandchildren or best friends' children. Really doesn't matter as far as that goes. All of these things can be used to bless our life, but we can also be a light in a vehicle in a world to people that may never hear that message. Maybe the person isn't very spiritually attuned, and yet you can come into that place and still be a light by telling someone a truth that they may have never heard before. You might be surprised sometimes that things don't always go over so well, and then you find out a month later that someone was really massively impacted by a word, and they're not always deemed positive. Correcting someone isn't always, unless you're a special person who understands reality, you won't deem correction as positive. When Source corrects me, he's not hurting me. He's helping me. And I acknowledge that. Woo, that stung. But yes, that's true. And so, darkness ceases. It is powerless to remove itself. Once again, the selfishness must be discovered and understood before it can be removed. It is powerless to remove itself, neither will it pass away of itself. Now, for those of you who haven't, I got blessed to get to see one of the tablets of the Sumerians talking about the parasites that attach themselves to humans. And guys, even for those, whether you were in the priesthood, it didn't matter. The concept is if you are human, these parasites are known to attack you, connect themselves to you. Some of them are so difficult that most people live the rest of their life after they encounter them. But even if that would be the case, and even if you would not end up with having knowledge before you died of how to rid yourself of this parasite, it doesn't mean you can't rid yourself of most parasites. And they all affect your life drastically. A lot of the things that we see in our society, believe it or not, are actually spiritual attachments that have attached to you. That's why some of your people, Wolfgang is one, and he's constantly trying to clear the path, protect, and remove the strings, cord, binds, ropes, guides, however the person wants to deem them. Remove those binds. That's the connection of the parasite. And in that level, they're absolutely correct. They are real, they do exist, and they are attracted to you. And so if you're not interested in continuing to be under bondage and ignorant, then you'll do something about it. And if it's okay with you to constantly have to suffer and struggle because of attachments that you could have dealt with, then there's just, there's not really much anybody can do for that. You have to do it for yourself. And so the selfishness must be discovered first and then understood. And I think that oftentimes outside of the psychological world, the vast majority of people really don't understand that, why they can't quit doing something. And a lot of times with humans, you can't quit doing it because you don't understand why you're doing it. And so there really is a huge blessing there if you can begin to recognize that and you go, okay, well, I acknowledge I do that. Now, how do I deal with it? Sometimes it still is a very long journey, but at least then you're walking in wisdom instead of walking in ignorance. You can't figure out why you keep doing these things that are destructive to you. And so it is powerless to remove itself, and neither will it pass away of itself. Darkness ceases only when light is introduced. Once again, I go right back. What did they keep that Yeshua said? You know, came into the darkness. It's just a part of our lives. We encounter darkness. We encounter darkness from other people. We encounter darkness from ourselves, and it's a place that we have to learn how to do battle in without being put out of position. Darkness ceases only when light is introduced. And so if your heart is dark and you refuse to allow the light of love and kindness and selflessness, and if you won't let that light in, then even though you are divine inside, you will never experience any of that. And that I think is really, at one level, is one of the worst tragedies, is that we all have the potential to be amazing light beings, and yet the mass majority, so I understand, is about 82% of the people will never experience what it means to be light. And so darkness ceases only when light is introduced, so ignorance can only be dispersed by knowledge, selfishness by love. Really, if you think about it, it gets brought down to just a very few things that we need to deal with. We need to deal with selfishness, self-centeredness. Those two are pretty much the same. We need to deal with kindness. You'd be amazed at how much just pure, simple kindness, being kind for the sake of being kind. And maybe you're a person who's prone to not have a problem saying how you feel. While you need to do that, you need to stay authentic. You also can do that and learn how to do that more in kindness. And I think that's a worthwhile journey. I'm certainly trying to get there, and I've watched some positive notes, and then I've seen myself pop back up again. So that doesn't stop me. It doesn't deter me from moving forward. It just simply reminds me that if we're not careful, we all will return back to where we came from. And so a man must first of all be willing to lose himself, his self-seeking. It doesn't mean you need to base yourself. It doesn't mean that you need to make yourself nothing. That's false humility. Humble people don't typically have to tell people they're humble. People see it. So a man who first of all be willing to lose himself, his self-seeking, before he can find himself, his divine self. All of us have it, but not all of us will access it. All of us could, but all of us won't. And so he must realize that selfishness is not worth clinging to. It might feel good to you in your brain, and if you're a person that is like that, you constantly tell yourself how you're the only one and nobody understands you and everybody's against you, and everybody takes advantage, and there's a whole list of things that all fit with that. And you do that in your mind like a wheel constantly. You must realize selfishness is not worth clinging to. It's not working. It's not working for you. I mean, unless your goal is to be unhappy and separated and isolated, and then if that's what you're looking for, you're doing exactly what you need to do. And so that it is a master, although unworthy of his service, and that divine goodness alone is worthy to be enthroned in his heart as the supreme master of his life. And so we saw earlier in the teachings earlier about to those that are worthy. It's funny that neither one of these two have been programmed to be together, and yet they are both talking about the exact same thing. What does it mean then to be worthy to be enthroned in your heart? That divine goodness alone divine goodness. You know, it takes a lot to experience divine goodness. It's very easy to experience self-badness. Not so easy to experience divine goodness. Your divinity is telling you, don't do that, don't say that, the way you did that was wrong, and you say, I don't care, I want what I want. You do it anyways, and then you suffer, and then you get more offended, and yada, yada, yada. The thing is just a rat race. And so that divine goodness alone is worthy to be enthroned in his heart as the supreme master of his life. It goes back, there's pieces of truth that are everywhere. What would Jesus do? I can tell you exactly what Yeshua would do. Yeshua would always do what was right, no matter how much it cost him. That's what he would do. He would do what's right. Why? Because he was listening to his higher self. And your higher self, I shared this, and I'm never going to quit harping on this. Your divine self is not the reason anything in your life that is unsavory has ever happened. Because divine self was telling you not to do that, and you told it to shut up and did what you wanted to anyways. And that's why you suffered. And then you want to blame it on something. That was good. I don't care who didn't like it. And so, be still, my soul, and know that peace is thine. Be steadfast, heart, and know that strength divine belongs to thee. Cease from your turmoil, mind, and thou the everlasting rest shall find. Another ironic piece to me. It's funny that we would find the one that stands in peace and then be given a picture of what that means. I find Source to be constantly at work on 1,000 different levels. I just find a lot of people who are very not connected internally. And so if a man would have peace, let him exercise the spirit of peace. If he would find love, let him dwell in the spirit of love. If he would escape suffering, let him cease to inflict it. Whatever thing a man sows, that is what he is reaping. Not will, is. If he would do noble things for humanity, let him cease to do ignoble things for himself. If he will but quarry the mind of his own soul, he shall find there all the materials for building whatever he will. And he shall find there also the central rock on which to build in safety. Central rock, certainly in this guy's mind, I suspect that is a correlation with Yeshua being the Christ, if you would. I would say that it is at a different step. Only then will you begin to see the true you. That is the rock that I am divine. That is the rock that I am God. That is the divine that I am worthy. Those things are all ours. They're all available to us. But you must avail yourself and you must, if you don't like the term laws, then let's use the term protocols. You have a list of protocols that are required of you for access this goodness. And it's up to you solely to fulfill those protocols. Step outside of the protocols, you never reach the divine goodness. That's how it works. So hopefully even this little piece will be yet again another blessing to help you towards being a better person, a brighter light, a stronger soul, a kinder human, and whatever else good things you want to add to that list is absolutely amazing. So peace and shalom to each and every one of you. We will be back on Wednesday night, if Source wills, at 7 o'clock. I hope you guys will be blessed. Hope you enjoyed the return of the wonderful sound of beautiful music. And we love each and every one of you. Shalom and namaste.